Greetings, greetings, greetings. So, welcome to anybody who is joining us. I see someone in the room already, but I can't see full on exactly where everyone is. It's been a while for me. I see you guys are joining, so thank you. I don't know exactly what platform because I am on multiple platforms right now. So, if you do have any questions, comments, or concerns, definitely drop them in the chat window, whatever platform you are on at this particular time, and we will be sure to get to them. Welcome, welcome, greetings, Envy, greetings, Lidra Moon. I thank you guys for showing up. I know it's been a while, but I've been getting so many questions from you guys, some really excellent questions that I wanted to come in and address. So I get some like through the comment sections on previous videos. Some people DM me directly or email me, so I wanted to address some of the many questions because I have a whole lot more than what I'm going over today, but I wanted to organize them into a show where it's kind of basically focused on the same specific dynamic. So today we're going to do some advanced stuff surrounding Ifá divination. Greetings and welcome all. Thank you, Granada, Sleeper Walking 7892. Greetings from Granada, the Caribbean. Such a beautiful place. Greetings, Faye. Always great to see you. Thank you all for joining. So I am going to pretty much jump into it as everybody decides to come in. So of course today we are dealing with the topic of two different Ifá divinations, also the Òdus, getting second opinions, things like that, how energy shifts, and what that means for your Ifá reading session, because I got a lot of advanced questions related to this particular topic. If you are joining live, definitely drop any questions you have, any comments that you may have into the chat. As I said before, if you're watching the replay, you can leave your comments, you leave any feedback that you have, questions, comments, just sharing insight that you may have into the comment section on whatever platform that you are on. As I said before, we are focused on a specific topic today, and I want to stick to that because I already have the questions planned out. So if you have questions related to what we're discussing, definitely feel free to ask. If you have questions that are off topic, I will take those and reconcile them in a future episode, but I don't want to get too far off track in today's episode. So I do thank you all for that, complying with that reality. You saying greetings from Modesta. Where is Modesta? What region of the world? Because I'm not familiar with it, Michelle. But thank you for joining. Is it Modesta? Is it California? I don't know why Modesta, California is coming in my head. Is it? Because I don't know. I was just thinking it wasn't even in America when I saw Modesta. It is California. So I was right. So it was in my head. Somehow Modesta, California. It should be, I guess. I'm right here in Arizona. See, I definitely have heard of it before, but when I first read it, I was like, where's Modesta? But beautiful, beautiful. Thank you all for joining. So I'm going to get started by first looking at, so we're going to look at understanding changes that come, at Ifá divination, rather. So we're going to look at changes that come when it comes to getting an Ifá reading, right? Understanding the changes and the things that surround that particular aspect. Now, I know many of you know what Ifá divination is, but I do want to give an introduction to it for some people who may be coming into the live stream and not having a solid foundation of what Ifá divination is, or even some people have gotten Ifá readings in the past and they still don't really full on understand what it is and what it's meant to do. So we're going to look at that right now. So we're going to start off with, what is the purpose of Ifá divination, right? So this is a sacred process through which a Babalawo, which is an Ifá priest, or an Ianifa, which is an Ifá priestess, reveals an Òdus, which is a sacred verse that comes from the oracle of Rumula, who is often referred to as Ifá, that's connected to that person or their situation that person and their situation, I should say, at that specific given time in their journey. Okay. It's used in the Ifa tradition, specifically Isheshe, right? And for anybody who is new here, I always come from the context of Isheshe, which is the tradition that is practiced out of Nigeria. I do not practice Santeria, Lukumi, or any. Well, I do practice Haitian voodoo, but that's a completely different system. They don't operate on the Odu, but I don't practice the other forms of the Ifa tradition that come with the diaspora nuances to them, right? So we're talking strictly from the perspective of Isheshe here, okay? So when it comes to Ifa divination, it is used throughout the Ifa tradition, basically to examine what's going on in a person's life, the most important matters that they need to tend to at that time, because we're always going through so many different scenarios and situations in life. But if a divination targets the primary situations or concerns that a person needs to address at that particular moment, and everything related to an Ifa reading is connected to an individual's destiny or purpose. So it's basically a snapshot of your destiny at that particular moment in time. That's something to get very, very important. Even though you can ask questions during Ifa divination, it is not like a psychic reading, and I'll get deeper into that shortly as well. It's not a psychic reading in that, it's just telling you what you want to hear about a specific situation at that time. It can do that. It absolutely does do that. But it also addresses things that you probably haven't even thought about during that particular phase. Okay. So the Odu basically catalogs the energetic conditions that are present at the precise time that the reading is performing. That's so important here when it comes to looking at Ifa divination, getting a reading from person to person, elate to elate, things like that. Because when it comes to the notion of the Odu, it is specific to that point in time when a person gets an Ifa reading. What is going on with their life or their situation at that particular time? Okay. It can absolutely reveal, how your current circumstances relate to your destiny. It does not can. It absolutely reveals how your current circumstances relate to your particular destiny. But it does not relate every single aspect of your life. So if a divination does not come forward and give you a full-on destiny path reading, that is only achieved through the Ifa initiation process, where you receive your permanent or lifetime Odu, as some people call it. All right. So it is not something that you come to asking, what is my purpose? That's going to be revealed. A portion of your purpose is going to be revealed automatically if the reading is done properly, which means that it generates an actual Odu. So anytime you get an Ifa reading, you should absolutely receive an Odu with it. So whenever you get that, that is showing, again, like I said before, a snapshot of what is going on in your life at that particular moment in time. It is not designed to tell you your entire life story. All right. That's not how it works. And the reading also identifies potential blessings, any type of warnings that you need to know about, taboos, obstacles, outcomes that are based on the energy that surrounds your particular situation. That is what it is designed to do. So it can come with a lot of different information, as I said before, that you weren't even imagining that will come up in that particular reading. All right. It may also prescribe specific behavioral changes, things that you need to do or stop doing, depending on your case. Elbow, which are the sacrificial offerings, a crochet, or other remedies that you need to address whatever the situation reveals about you during that particular time. It also provides information that helps a person understand or responds to conditions that affect their life in that particular given moment. And this is the important part about Ifá divination versus other forms of spiritual readings. Okay, I've said it before, I'll say it a million times. Ifá divination is not a psychic reading. You do not come to Ifá just to know about what's going on in a particular situation if you are not planning to do something about it. There are other types of readings that we personally provide at Asanee 44 and other people provide all over the world that you can get that do that. So Ifá divination should never be used just to get information because it is going to come with Ebo and you should be prepared for that reality. So absolutely keep that be very mindful of that before you go in and get a reading. Greetings. Is it Roxanne? Roxanne, greetings. How are you from Charlotte, North Carolina? Okay. In the South, I'm from Georgia, so that definitely rings a beautiful bell for me. Alrighty, so now I'm gonna go back to what we were discussing. We're gonna get to another question on what to expect from Ifá divination as well. So a completed reading should identify the Òdus as I've talked about before, which is a sacred verse. Most readers will tell you exactly what the Òdus is. They will identify what specific the name of the specific Òdus, rather they should, and they will give you information surrounding that and how it applies to your life at that particular time. Okay, so you should get that whenever you get an Ifá reading. The practitioner should also explain, as I said before, anything that's communicated, right? And they can explain it in so many different ways. You have to check with the diviner to see how they do it. Some people do written reports like we do at Asanee 44. Some people do live video face-to-face or synchronous sessions where they will do it with you remotely. If you are in that local area, many readers absolutely do it face to face with you in person if you can go directly there. And so many other mechanisms that they can use. Some people may just do an audio recording or something like that. You have to check with them and see which is most conducive for you as far as how you want to receive that guidance. Okay. Some services do include opportunities to ask questions or to receive follow-up explanations. Again, this is something you want to ask for. You cannot assume. You want to make sure that is there. Either ask for it or read it. Like for us, we provide everything in our Ifá divination service page that shows everything that we do. So we don't leave a whole lot of room for additional question that you would have, but definitely if you have questions outside of the literature that we've already put out there online, feel free to ask if it's concerning something that you want to know in relation to our services. But we try to do a thorough job so that you understand what you're getting before, during, and after an Ifá session with us specifically. So excuse me, guys. So before booking, you want to review that person's website and their information to determine, what their process entails, how long it is, things like that, because everybody operates on a completely different system, guys. And you want to be mindful of that. Do not expect for people to operate the same because they have different processes, they have different workflows, they have different client loads. So, I've had people come to me and say, why does it say up to 15 days for reading feedback? Well, we can get that busy at times, in minimum 3 to 5 days, because we're constantly processing not just readings, but ritual work, crochet, and so many other things that go into helping people out with the various remedies that are available through Ifá. right? And somebody else, they may be able to provide you same day service or next day turnaround service. And that, if that's what you need, you may want to go and exercise that option. But don't expect for people to operate the same across the board, because it's just not the reality of how it goes. Like, just like with anything else in life, right? You're not going to expect to go from one place to the next and have the exact same experience. Okay, I got a quick question from Michelle. You said, "What if you're really having a hard time doing the elbow because the divination says you need to, in order to align with your path? Who can I turn to for help that won't take advantage of me?" So when you say having a hard time, I'm going to assume that you mean financially paying for the elbow. If not, please clarify that for me. Usually you should be able to talk to the person and work out some kind of financial arrangements. We always suggest, right, to start with the most important ones. As we tell all of our clients, to start with the most important one, the elbow at that time. And we help you identify that, right? So we'll look into it and see, what is the case for your situation. You're saying yes. So yeah, if it's financial, we look in and see what is the case for your specific situation. You said, who can I turn for help as well that won't take advantage of me? That's something that you're going to have to assess internally with your org. Obviously, we do not take advantage of people. That is not what we are here for. We provide feedback. You do what you desire to do thereafter. We never ever try to force anybody to do anything that they are not ready to do. This is one of the reasons why we constantly emphasize it, even on the order page, everything, everywhere we show up, we're saying, do not do this process unless you are prepared for the reality of EBO. And even when you do it, right, you go ahead and you get your Ifá reading, and you receive the the requirements or the remedies or what have you thereafter. We help you go through the steps of starting with the most important ones for your situation at that time, right? But we don't pressure anybody to do anything that they're not ready to do. I just am constantly trying to emphasize, don't do it until you are ready for that reality. It's an amazing, just helpful remedy, right? To get the information itself from an IFA reading is great, and is, very healing, even though on in and of itself, especially when you're told certain things that you shouldn't be doing or that you should be doing that can aid you or help you out rather, as you move through your life. But it is also very beneficial when you do the elbow. It has shaped and changed my life in so many ways personally. That being said, it is a very personal thing to do. So you need to know about their reality. If you just want information, there are other ways to get it. If you want to just know, you have yes or no questions, direct questions that are going to provide you feedback without you having to engage in an elbow process. Do that first if you're not in a financial position to begin that process. Can circumstances change independently after an IFA reading? I received this question. So definitely, they will change, right? Because this is life. Life is consistently changing. We're dealing with energetic shifts on a day-to-day basis. Sometimes hour to hour, sometimes minute to minute, or even so second to second, just depending on what's going on in the cosmos at that time. So, Ifá divination, as I said before, is designed to reveal what's going on with you energetically at the precise time that the reading is done. The Òdus is going to catalog that energetic activity surrounding your situation and present you with future potential outcomes, right? Those outcomes are contingent on what you do or what you do not do based on the energy of the reading. All right. So, definitely the circumstances can absolutely shift independently as your events changes and as those energetic patterns change over time. It doesn't even have to be that long of a period of time, because really the energy is said to surround it for about 17 to 19 days. But if there is some type of major cosmological event that happens that shapes global energetic patterns, literally you can get an Ifá reading one day and the energy can be very different, not completely different, but very different the next day over. And I'm going to get into that as well when it comes to the Òdus shortly. So does the energy surrounding an Òdus remain the same until another reading is performed? Usually not. Usually not. It depends, of course, when that reading is done, right? So if you get a reading today and you decide to get a reading tomorrow, it may or may not change. There's no guarantee either way, because again, it just depends on what's going on in the cosmos at that particular time when the reading is done, okay? But the energy is constantly shifting. So even if it's not like a major shift, it may just be a few changes that occurred that can reshape certain components of the reading. All right. It could be pretty much the same in many areas, but then there could be some small shifts just depending on what happened between the time you receive one reading to another. All right. So, like I said before, between 17 to 19 days is the time where they say, that energy is usually most active. So, already talked about that. All right. Another question is, can a later Ifá reading change or override? Let me get a question. Sorry about that. Let me get this coming. You said, I have two Evos performed 6 months apart by different Papalawos, both of whom provided similar guidance. Could having two separate spiritual works overlap this way interfere with the intended outcome? 6 months apart, usually not. So it depends on the outcomes. It depends on what the work was done for, right? And 6 months apart, then there is a strong likelihood, not guaranteed, but a strong likelihood that you will have different Òdus. And the spiritual work is supposed to help out either way, right? So some people in the tradition, they get readings done fairly frequently, sometimes every 17 to 19 days, sometimes once a month, that frequently. And so the work is just going to be cumulative and continuously help you out over time. You're saying someone who has received Ifá Divination readings from Asanee 44 Academy, appreciate the guidance, wisdom, transparency through the process. Ashe, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Faye. I really appreciate that. Yes, so it just really depends. And we're going to even get a little bit deeper into some of those aspects too that you asked about here. Can a later reading change or override an earlier warning? So like if you receive a warning in an Ifá reading, can you wait right for a week or two or maybe a month, and then that warning just disappears? So no, that's not how it works. The energy is the energy at the time of the reading. Just going to get another Ifá reading doesn't make that previous warning disappear automatically if you have not done any work to change that from happening. All right. So, of course, if you receive a warning, let's say, for instance, like something related to your health, like you're about to experience some major health issues, if you don't do EBO, or you need maybe spiritual medicine, or you need even some herbal remedies or something like that, or it could even be like allopathic treatment, like you need to go and have a particular surgery, or you could face some major health challenges. Okay, that's not going to change just because you get another reading. The next reading, if you haven't addressed it, it will likely come up in the next reading, because your health is everything. Your health is your wealth. You can't do anything else without sound health, right? So it probably will resurface in another reading, but even if it doesn't, that doesn't mean that scenario has changed and you should just ignore your health. Only way it's not going to come up again is if you actually did something about it. So maybe you went ahead and did the prescribed elbow, or maybe you went and did some kind of treatment, took a crochet, did natural remedies, or something to facilitate the process of healing in your body. So you want to keep that in mind. It's not like, oh, well, I could just ignore it and get another reading later on down the road and everything is good. That's If a reading is done properly, those dynamics are not just going to go away on their own, without addressing it in some kind of like proper way. So, seeking a second Ifá reading, we're going to deal with some questions related to that. Should someone seek a second Ifá divination to test the validity of the first? Okay. I'm gonna say generally no, because the question was positioned like, okay, if I get a reading today and I want to go and get another reading maybe tomorrow or a couple of days from now to check and see if that reading is going to present me with the exact same Òdus that I got from my previous reading. Like, that's not a guarantee. So you should never do that to check the validity, because the Òdus can change. You could literally get in a reading, an Ifá reading, within 1 hour, and the next hour over, the Òdus could have changed, because again, this is based on energetic shifts. Now, will it likely, even if the Òdus changes, much of the energy, if it's in close proximity and there hasn't been any really major energetic shifts between that time, it will probably present many of the same things, even if the Òdus is different. But you're not guaranteed to get the same Òdus. So that's not the way to check the validity. Like, well, this person gave me this Òdus, so I'm going to get another reading and and see if I get the exact same Òdus. That's not the proper way to test it. Even so, like, that is, even if you get the same Òdus, right? There's a higher likelihood that maybe they're operating within the same sphere or scope of the IFA reading process for sure. But if you get two different Òdus, that's not to say that neither one of them were 100% correct. If the reading wasn't done properly, that's not how you check to see if it was right or not. And I'll get to some ways that we do that shortly, right? A true comparison would really require the readings to be done at on the exact same day, the exact same time. That's the only way to validate if you're getting the same Òdus. And then, again, too, if the reading is not done properly by one or both people, that's still not the 100% valid way of checking it. It's just the reality of that. All right. So we already talked about that. If you do it a few days later, those energies could have shifted. And so you are using the wrong measuring stick at the end of the day for that. Yes, yes, yes. How are you, Lance? I am back. Good to see you. I'm happy you joined. All right. You fucking Leah. Thank you for joining. Thank you, Lance. Um, what you saying? You said those energetic shifts are so subtle too. Yes, they can be. It really just depends. That's why I say is you can't use that as a measurement, because the energy could shift and you don't know what happened, and also depends on what you did, right? So if you actually do two different readings and then you do some work towards one, or let's say you get like a warning or something, for instance, from one of the readings, and you're told to stop doing something that you've been doing and you actually stop doing it, that could also change the energy. There's so many factors that could be involved in that reality. You have to be very, very careful with that. Okay, so if another Babalawo reveals a different Òdus, does that contradict the first Ifá reading? Not necessarily. Like I said before, a different Òdus does not automatically say that the first person was wrong. It just depends on when the reading was conducted. the second reading doesn't invalidate the first, assuming that the first was right, or excuse me, assuming that the second one was even right itself. All right, it may show just how things have changed. So be careful with trying to assess things when, especially, you're not familiar with the tradition and how it operates. Is skepticism a valid reason to seek confirmation from another Babalawo? Absolutely, right? So if you're feeling skeptical, I feel like that's your Ori speaking to you, and you need to take your time out to really and truly listen to your Ori, your inner head speaking to you. All right. That being said, if you're not familiar with the people that you are consulting, it may not do you any good. So, like, you might feel skeptical about one reading that you got, and then you go somewhere else to do another reading. If you haven't properly vetted the person that you're getting the second reading from, and you just go in and get the reading, you might have the same problem all over again, right? So, the key to that is first to vet who you are going to get a reading from. Listen to them. Talk to have, pray to your ancestors. Talk to your Ori, your ancestors, whoever you're more inclined to go to. If you're in a beginning phase and you feel more comfortable having ancestral conversations, your Ori is still going to speak through those dynamics. But once you establish that connection, you tell your spiritual team to direct and guide you to the right person. Don't be anxious. Don't just run in and say, I gotta get a reading today, or you just see somebody pop up on your screen and you just go and get an Ifá reading and you know nothing about that person, or even so understand the tradition or Ifá divination well. Then you're setting yourself up for problems right then and there. Okay. um but you got to be careful. You do have to be careful with, like, jumping from person to person, because that can cause you problems in so many different areas. All right. Also, if you are steadily, like, working with someone, I wouldn't really advise you trying to go behind them on the side to check with somebody else, unless you're planning on leaving that person. Like, you're seriously seeking out to get a new priest or priestess to work with. Then, of course, you want to test the waters out and see who else out there really fits your needs and fits the scope of what the practice, how you want to practice the tradition or what have you, for sure. Even so, it could be issues with, it may not even be issues with accuracy. It could just be issues with, customer service, or you not getting along with that person, just not vibing with that person. So, you can check with other people in those cases, but just be careful with those dynamics. How can someone responsibly evaluate you for divination quality before they start to pay for their elbow? The first part of this is, like I said before, vet the person before you even get the reading itself. Do not start with the vetting process after you've already gotten the reading and you've gotten this list of elbow that says you need to do this, this, and that. You need to feed this Orisha and that Orisha. You need to give this and that, and you need to get some spiritual medicine, and all of these different concepts that you have no idea about and you're unfamiliar with. That is not the time to begin to vet the person. The time to vet the person was before you even got a reading from them. All right. Once you receive the reading, you want to try to connect with your Ori, like your inner head. And when I say connect, I'm not saying here doing Ibori, because you're not at that space yet if you kind of new to the tradition or what have you. Instead, I'm saying, like, just check in with your intuition. Does it feel right to you? Like, does the information feel right? Does the person feel right for you to continue to work with them? Those are things you have to sit with yourself and figure out, right? And so once you do figure those things out, you also want to determine if the information was accurate. If they gave you information that you can actually validate, is it true or not? Did they give you inaccurate information? Those are also things to look at, right? If you still feel like you're uncertain after you've gone through that process to check with your inner head and the accuracy of the reading or what have you, you can consult another reputable practitioner before you pay for the elbow. But again, be very, very careful with those dynamics from jumping from one place to the next, because unfortunately I'm just seeing this trend with a lot of people out here, like they are treating Ifá divination or working with an Ifá priest or priestess like just going to the grocery store or something like that, right? That's not the way it was traditionally practiced. It's not the way it's meant to be practiced. Like in the olden days, people had the same Babalawo or Ianifa or what have you for their entire lifetime, if that were possible, unless the person transitioned before them. Like usually it was from the same family line, because they put so much trust in this person, because this person was looking deep into their personal life and they were providing them high level remedies and things like that. So you want to be very, very careful about who you are connecting with. Okay. Should previously prescribed EBO be completed before receiving a new IFA reading? So this really depends on what stage you are in. So if it depends on how much time has passed, and it depends on whether you've already started doing the EBO process or not, right? So usually if you start doing the EBO within that 17 to 19 day window, as I talked about before, it's best to go ahead and complete the previous EBO, because it's still very much so relevant and active. So you want to go ahead and finish that session off if at all possible, right? If it I already said that. I thought I was okay. I thought I said something else, but I already said that part. So if the elbow was never started though, and it's been like up to 30 days that have passed, I would say talk to your practitioner to see if you need another reading or not at that time, because that again the energy shifts. So you just want to be on point with whether you need to get another reading or whether you should go ahead and start with the elbow. If it's been after a 30-day window, usually a new IFA reading is going to be advised at that time if you never started with the elbow from the previous reading. Okay. And definitely if you want new information, like about what's going on in your situation, if you have questions surrounding your circumstances at that time, then obviously you're going to want to go ahead and do another IFA reading as well. Okay. Another question I got is, can seeking repeated readings result in additional or more costly EBO obligations? Absolutely, it can. It's not guaranteed that it will, but it absolutely can. So if your goal is like, I'm going to get this another readings later on, so maybe the expense of my elbow will have gone down, like that is not the reason to do that, because it could actually go up. It could stay the same, it could go down, but there's no guarantee either way it goes. So you want to be cautious about it. Again, this is not something to play with anyway. If you're not in a position to do elbow once you to go get an IFA reading, just don't get the reading done. Like go get another type of reading. You can still get spiritual insight by doing another type of reading instead of full blown Ifá divination, where it's going to come with elbow that could easily run you, into the $1,000 realm. It just depends on what comes up in the reading, and the person that's like doing your ritual work, how much they charge and things like that. All right. So let's see, we'll look at the purpose and the timing of elbow. So we're going to switch to the ritual work, the sacred process of actually remedying some things that come from the Ifá reading. So again, I want to start here with looking at what elbow is, what's his role in the Ifá divination process before I get to the higher level advanced questions that were asked prior to the live stream. So Ebo is prescribed sacrificial offerings used to address specific energetic conditions that come through Ifá divination. You can also do Ebo outside of Ifá divination. However, I'm specifically referring to it in within the context of Ifá divination here in this live stream. Okay. The Òdus, the circumstances surrounding the reading, help to determine why your elbow is needed, what offerings are included. That's how you know. That's how it goes. The reading will tell you what needs to be done, who needs what orishas need to be fed, and what they take at that given time. Okay. Ebo can be prescribed for so many different reasons to remove or reduce obstacles, to address any type of negative interferences in your life, prevent unfavorable outcomes, to remove anything that's blocking your blessings or your opportunities from coming to you, etc. Within Isheshe, as I said before, Isheshe, the tradition out of Nigeria, Ebo generally includes some form of animal sacrifice. If you are not inclined to do animal sacrifice, you do not need to get an Ifa reading. Okay, not from the Sheshe tradition. You can do it in traditions like Santeria and Lukumi, where it does not always. Matter of fact, it rarely comes with animal sacrifices in those traditions. Okay, but in the Ifa tradition, in Isheshe, and let me say this too, in Isheshe, the the Ifa priest or priestess does the elbow for you. All right, I know again in Lukumi and Santeria, they'll tell you to do your own sacrifices and offerings and all of that kind of stuff. That is not the way it's done in Isheshe. Somebody else, the priest, not the priest or priestess, or somebody high level trained who knows how to do that, performs those elbow and things like that, the sacrificial offerings. All right. Even so, just non life force materials that are also given, they also give that because there are specific protocols. This is not something that you should be doing by yourself if you have never practiced the tradition before. If it's your first time ever getting an Ifa reading and you go somewhere and somebody tells you to do an offering or a sacrifice, I would be very, very cautious. Do it on your own. I mean, I would be very, very cautious if I were you with that because you don't really know what you're doing at that particular stage, okay? And life force. I don't know why I can't get force out today. Non-life force materials or offerings can be given and are oftentimes given as well in addition to the sacrificial offerings, meaning animal sacrifices. So it could be what do you call it? Just a number of things, so many different. It could be cloth, it could be could be brass, it could definitely be foods, right? So plants and herbs and things like that. So many different things. Like literally, it could even so be like somebody has to shoot a gun or something on your behalf. Really, just depends on the circumstances. So many different things. um Receiving the reading result is not the entire process of Ifa divination. That's important to note. Like I've emphasized a million and one times, I'm always saying, you know, be ready for this reality. Do not go get a reading just because you want information, because the Ebo is like the most important part of it. One of the most important. I won't say the most, because there are things that do come out like taboos and warnings that are absolutely essential for you to know as well, because they can prevent or stop a lot of problems in your life. But the elbow is paramount. Like that's the reason why you go and do Ifa divination, right? So you should consider that. You should be prepared for that reality beforehand. Most people, let me take back that statement. I won't say most. I will say traditionally, the elbow price is going to be given to you separate than the reading price. There are some people who will give you the price of a reading and elbow together before you ever do the reading, which if they do that, that probably means that they're only going to do Irubo, which is feeding the earth spirits, right? Yami and other earth bound spirits. But they're not doing the full scope of Ebo that you need, because nobody can give you the price of full Ebo before you do the reading, because they have no idea of what Ebo is going to come out. So just be mindful of that reality of how it works in traditional Isheshe practice. And I'm going to leave that statement there. Okay, I'm going to answer a few things. You said it's delusion for a person to have felt these energies from childhood, and could that be the first step of being guided to this very moment person path? Absolutely. You said, is it delusional? Sorry, is it delusional for a person to have felt? It is not delusional, not at all. I'm sorry, I misread. It is not this delusional at all. That is very, very common, myself included. I felt like a pull from childhood before I came into the tradition, and I look back at my life and I'm like, these are things that I've already believed in. They were part of me, but I didn't have the vocabulary or the language to express it because I never encountered Ifa or traditional practice before. So definitely. Lance, you're saying yes, leukemia is a whole different story, yeah. It is. And you got to be mindful of that reality. I'm not saying one is better or worse because that's not for me to judge. I always say, I don't care what you're working with, Christian, whatever. If it's working for you, it's working for you. And I say stick with it if it's working for you. But the reality is that they are so conflating into today's world, primarily because much of the information that's available online is actually coming from leukemia. So people get really mixed up when they start to study the Ifa tradition and they're only using online resources. And Olodumare help us all. AI is doing a whole nother thing with the tradition and traditional information. But when people come to study to the tradition, they're thinking that they're getting Isheshe based information when they're really getting it from Lukumi, Santeria, or another tradition altogether. Especially when it comes to deity names and things like that, because there are many traditions that like use the common names like Oshun and Ogun that you don't even know like where the information is coming from when you go and you look it up. You don't know what branch of the tradition you're reading it from. You saying, and there are priests that claim Isheshe and present as so, but are really looking me diasporic in practice. The elbow process is very telling, 100%. And thank you for saying that too. It is like that is one of the ways you can really tell the difference is when they prescribe you elbow, right? Because if somebody says to you, give you anything, they tell you to go and do it on your own, they're not practicing Isheshe. They're practicing some completely different. Again, not saying it's wrong, it's just not Isheshe. So be mindful of that reality of what's going on there. Right. And if that's what you want to do, by all means go ahead and do it. It's just that, people definitely need to be more forthcoming with what they're saying and what they're doing. There are even some situations where you have what do you call it? Like Orisha priest or Olarishas is what they're called in the tradition. So Orisha priests and priestesses like that are non Ifa or Rumula based, right? So priestess of maybe Oshun or Batala or something like that, who are actually calling themselves Babalawos and Eonifas and presenting themselves as Ifa priestesses and priests and priestesses, but they are not. They're actually doing readings from the Orisha that they work with. And so that confuses a lot of people as well, because somebody will go and they say, I got an Ifa reading. And they're not presenting anything that actually comes in an Ifa reading. They're presenting information from an Orisha reading, which could absolutely be accurate in and of itself. The problem is that it was presented to that person as an Ifa reading. And so now that person is confused because it is not an Ifa reading. So they might, may not have any elbow that comes up, or they may have elbow that is only specific to that Orisha, right? So they got an Oshun reading. It might just be that they need to feed Oshun. And then they go and get a real Ifa reading, and then they have this whole long list of different Orishas that they actually need to feed, because Arumula is the Orisha of destiny. That's why Arumula or Ifa is so very important in a person's journey, even if Arumula is not that person's head Orisha, because Orisha forecasts a person's destined path. He talks about what's going on with your holistic destiny. That's why so many different Orishas can come through in that reading. Whereas if you just consult with a different priest or priestess, it could be something completely different. I'm going to just leave it there. You said, thank you for all the information that you're providing. I'm just starting the journey. I'm nervous. Thank you. You're very, very welcome. I understand it. Like we all, I think from the diaspora, we all come to it from this place. We're trying to figure it out, trying not to get scammed. It is a world out here. It really is. So let's put this. Okay, trying to show the question. Pressed the wrong button. How does Ifa determine when animal sacrifice is necessary? Which is a question I got, and again, I think this comes from the discrepancies in Isheshe and other traditions, because other traditions don't always present animal sacrifices. So the Odu reveals that. That's where it comes from. The Odu is read, revealed. Then the priest or priestess will determine which orishas need to be fed in your situations, and what do they take, what do they need in that particular situation. Because this is different than just going and feeding an orisha something that they take, because they may not want just what you're trying to give them. That's why the Ifá divination process fleshes that out. Like you may be ready to give like Oshun a chicken, for instance, but in that particular situation, she wants something completely different than that. I'm trying to think. I don't want to say the wrong thing, because I know I was about to say the wrong type of animal, but give me an example. I will just say if you're there, right? So, I'll do Ifa, because I know I'm not wrong here. So, for instance, Ifa, you might want to go and give Ifa a chicken, but Ifa wants a goat from you, right, during that particular session. It's not like it's wrong to give Ifa a chicken, but if you're trying to remedy something in particular that you want help with, Ifa being a rumula, and you just say, well, I'm going to feed a rumula a chicken right now, it may not help out with that particular situation. Doesn't mean that it won't help you out at all, because it will definitely bring you some energy towards your destined path, but it may not help you out with the particular situation that you're going through during that time. The Babalawo evaluates that offering to determine the animals that's needed, like I said before. In Isheshe, if a divination is going to produce elbow, that comes with animal sacrifice. That's just the norm. And I say virtually here just to err on the side of caution, because maybe there's somewhere somebody who doesn't do this, but normally any shay is going to come with animal sacrifices. Other traditions, they may do basic offerings, no animal sacrifice. Other traditions, you might get a reading and no offering even comes up at all. That there are so many discrepancies there. Lukumi, Santeria, these are diasporic traditions that don't operate like the traditional practice, because they did lose access to a lot of the knowledge systems and the availability of things that go on within the traditional practice. Greetings, Ilona. Thank you for joining us. So, you have to keep all of those dynamics in mind. The next question we're going to address is, can lifestyle changes replace animal sacrifices? And I've gotten this a number of times throughout the years, because people see that, all the elbow they have to do, and they're like, oh my God, this is too much. Generally, that's not going to be the case, right? Lifestyle changes are usually going to be recommended in addition to the animal sacrifice. So when you receive your Ifá reading, you're going to receive, the Òdus that reveals everything that's going on in your situation at that particular time, what the Orishas want based on what you need help with and how you need to achieve balance or alignment in your life during that cycle. You will also likely, not always, depends on the reader, what they pull out. You will likely get some warnings. You might even get some taboos that come in that reading, depending on the orientation of it. You're supposed to do all of those. It's not like, well, you might get like a warning that you should not let's see, you don't need to like poke fun of somebody who is dealing with a mental health problem or something like that. Like that could cause you a lot of problems that could lead to you either suffering mental health problems or your children suffering mental health problems in the future or something like that. It might be a warning, right? But it may also come up in your reading that you are suffering from like a serious illness or something like that. And so you can't just say, well, I won't poke fun of somebody who has mental health issues in lieu of me doing the elbow for my own health situation. That's not how it works. Those are connected. You're supposed to do both, right? So you have to be mindful of that full reality that goes on with it, right? When you get those taboos, when you get those warnings, you should absolutely change your behavior accordingly, right? Whether it's telling you not to do something or that you should be doing something, you should be focusing on something in your life, then you need to follow those things. But usually that's not going to remove the elbow requirements. What removes those elbow requirements, right, is going to be you actually addressing the underlying cause. In the Ifa tradition, obviously we do this through elbow, through the sacrificial offerings, through the non-life force offerings and materials and things like that. But you still need to operate within the lifestyle guidelines and changes and things or what have you. It's not to say, excuse me, guys, it's not to say that elbow is the only way. So if you're dealing with something, it may be that you can go to like an allopathic, route, right? If it's like health related or something like that, you can go to a doctor and maybe remedy your health condition through that way instead of doing elbow, instead of taking spiritual medicine. It may be, right? But if it's spiritual in nature, it's unlikely that that's going to help. You can check those things out. But just going away on its own just because you change your behavior, that's usually not going to be the case. What happens if someone cannot complete the elbow entirely? And we kind of addressed this earlier. I think it was you, Michelle, that asked that question. So I'll just reiterate here for anybody who is just joining. You want to try to begin the elbow within the recommended time frame, as I said before. Even if you can't do everything at once, you definitely want to get into the most important ones first, rather, and start that process. Ask your practitioner, whoever did the reading for you, like which one is most important for you to do, and they'll be able to direct you there. Okay. And then, you also want to speak to your, either for your Babalawo or what have you, to give you direction and guidance on how to proceed from that point. Once you've taken care of the most important ones, like what are the steps to completing the rest of the elbow? What kind of, process do they take you through? Because everybody's different, as I said earlier. Okay, so I'm about to get ready to close, but if anybody has any questions, comments, or concerns that are lingering, my throat, this Arizona desert, I tell you the truth, please feel free to drop them in the comment section and I'll be happy to answer them before I leave out. So we are going to definitely continue walking the path of Ifá. Guys, if you want the regular Òdus posts, regular, full readings, definitely go ahead and subscribe to the Asanee 44 blog, because I post those weekly on Wednesdays, I think it is. They come out, so check that out so you can stay informed with knowledge about the tradition itself. That's absolutely free. Sign up for any updates. I do a monthly newsletter as well, so you can get that, and that comes with all of the discount codes that we offer for that upcoming month in readings or whatever is on going to be on sale the upcoming month. So you can sign up there. Um, Newsletter, sunny44.com newsletter subscription. You can also go to the home page and scroll all the way down to the bottom, and there's a newsletter sign up there as well. If you are seeking deep level transformation, you're ready to explore more about living in alignment with Ifá wisdom, definitely visit us at Asanee 44. We have so many resources and materials there. We definitely offer Ifá Divination for anybody wondering. And you can find everything. Like, we have so many resources about Ifá Divination on the website and places all over the web. So check us out there. Ashe, Michelle. Thank you for joining. Thank you, likewise, Faye, for joining. Thank you. You guys are very, very welcome. I have not set a date for the next episodes. I didn't want to give you that, but I do plan on covering a lot of the questions that I received about the Òdus, 256 Òdus, Ifá corpus across different lineages, which is what we addressed a lot today because that's so important as well. So if you don't have any questions, guys, I bid you farewell. I thank you all for joining as always. Ashe, have a very blessed and beautiful day and beyond. You're welcome, Roxanne. Take care, guys.